The warehouse stinks of rust and gun oil, and the man on his knees is still lying. Tae-jun walks the line of crates with his hands behind his back, slow, unbothered, while two of his men hold the traitor upright by the collar. The man sold a shipment route to a rival crew, and he thinks an apology can buy his life back. It cannot. Tae-jun crouches to his level, studies the sweat running into his eyes, and speaks so quietly the others have to lean in to hear. "You think I am angry," Tae-jun says. "I am not angry. Angry men make mistakes. I never make mistakes." The gunshot cracks the air a second later. The body drops. Nobody flinches except the new recruit by the door, and Tae-jun marks that flinch, files it away, because in his world a man who flinches is a man who will one day run. He is 31 years old, and he has buried more people than most men ever meet. He rebuilt the Jean Syndicate out of the ashes his father left behind, dragged it back from collapse with his own 2 hands, and for 3 years he has held the throne by being colder and faster and smarter than everyone who wanted it. He is winning. He should feel like a man who is winning. So he cannot explain why the whole room goes silent the moment his uncle walks in. Do-hyun is 60, with silver hair combed flat and a voice that never rises, and he smiles the way other men reach for a weapon. He steps over the fresh body without once looking down. He pours himself a drink from Tae-jun's own bottle, uninvited, and lets the silence stretch until it carries weight. "Clean work," Do-hyun says. "Always clean. Your father was clean too." He swirls the glass. "But your father had sons. He had a name that would not die with him." The old man looks up, and his eyes are kind, and that is the most dangerous thing in the building. "You are the last Jean, nephew. No wife, no child, no blood to carry the seat when you fall. And men fall." He drinks. "The other families are already asking who comes after you. I tell them not to worry." A pause. "I tell them I am still here." He sets the empty glass down and walks out, and he never raises his voice, and that is the threat. Tae-jun stands alone over the body of the man he killed an hour too early, and for the first time in 3 years he understands a simple thing. He is not winning. He is running out of time. An empire with no heir is an empire with an open door, and his uncle is standing in that doorway, smiling, waiting for the day Tae-jun bleeds. He needs a child, not a wife, not love, not any of the soft things that get men killed. He needs blood. An heir locks the throne, silences the families, and shuts the door his uncle keeps trying to walk through. He needs it fast, he needs it on his own terms, and he needs the mother to be someone with no name behind her, no family, no army, no leverage. Someone he can hold completely in his hand. That same night, across the city, a woman he has never met finishes a double shift at a fertility clinic, peels off her gloves, and has no idea that a man just decided her life belongs to him now. Her name is Naomi Carter, and in 9 months, she is going to hate him more than she has hated anyone alive. If you love a slow burn that begins with a lie and ends with a man burning his whole world to keep one woman, do this right now. Tap subscribe, hit that like button, and drop the word mine in the comments so I know you are here from the very start. Because this story does not go where you think it goes. Trust me, Tae-jun does not gamble. He studies. For 6 days a folder sits on his desk, and every night he opens it. Naomi Carter, 28, born in Atlanta, came to Seoul 2 years ago on a nursing contract and stayed when the contract ended. No husband, no children. A mother back home she calls on Sundays, and a brother she has not spoken to in years. She rents a small apartment in Mapo, walks the same route to the clinic every morning, buys the same coffee, smiles at the same street vendor who never once learns her name. She is alone in a country that was never built to hold her, and she has made a life out of it anyway. That is the part Tae-jun reads twice. A woman who survives alone is a woman who has learned to want someone, badly, even while she pretends she does not. Why her? His right hand, Min-suk, asks, flipping the photograph across the desk. There are easier women, Korean women, women who already owe us. Easier women have people, Taejun says. Fathers, brothers, men who come asking questions when their daughter vanishes behind my walls. This one has no one in this country who would notice if she disappeared for a month. He closes the folder. And she is a nurse. She will understand a child before she understands me. By the time she understands me, it will already be too late for both of us. Min-suk says nothing, because there is nothing safe to say. He has watched Taejun take apart men twice his size with the same flat patience. He just did not think he would watch him take apart a woman who has done nothing wrong but be lonely in the wrong city. And if she falls in love with you, Min-suk says finally, then the plan works faster. Taejun answers and does not look up. He believes it completely. That is the first mistake he does not know he is making. The clinic where Naomi works runs short on a private donor account, and 3 days later a generous new investor quietly funds the entire wing she runs. The investor asks for nothing in return except a tour. He arrives on a Thursday in a charcoal coat, and when Naomi turns from a chart to greet him, Taejun gets his first real look at the woman he has decided to ruin. She is taller than her photograph, warm brown skin under the cold clinic light, a wide, unguarded smile, dark eyes that look straight at him instead of away. She offers her hand and says, "Mr. Jean, thank you. The grant means everything to this floor. We were about to lose 2 beds." And for 1/2 of 1 second before he locks it down, something in Jean Taejun's chest does a thing it has not done in years. He ignores it. He shakes her hand. He smiles the way he practiced in the car on the drive over. "Call me Taejun," he says. "Show me what my money built." She walks him through the ward and she talks about her patients like they are people instead of numbers. And he listens the way a hunter listens to the woods, learning the ground. At the elevator, she thanks him again, and he says he would like to see the work continue, and would she have dinner, and tell him where the next grant should go. She hesitates. He sees the hesitation and respects it out loud. No pressure, only if she wants, and that small mercy is the bait under the bait. "1 dinner," she says. "For the floor." "For the floor," he agrees. He does not know it yet, standing there in her clean, bright hallway with the elevator doors closing on her cautious smile. But the trap he is setting has 2 sets of teeth, and one of them is going to close on him. He does it slowly, the way you gentle an animal that has been hurt before. He does not push. He listens. He asks about Atlanta and remembers the answers, every one of them, and brings them back weeks later so she feels held in a way she has missed for years. He sends no flowers, because flowers are what every other man sends, and Naomi Carter is not a woman who has been short on cheap attention. Instead, he sends a worn copy of a book she mentioned once in passing, with no note, and lets her wonder who paid that much attention to one sentence she barely remembers saying. The first dinner is about the clinic, exactly as promised, and that disarms her more than charm would. The second is because she laughed 3 times and caught herself wanting a 4th. By the third, she has stopped pretending it is about the floor. "Why me?" she asks one night, wine warm in her hand, the question half a joke and half a test. "You could have anyone in this city. Why the foreign nurse with no money and a tired accent?" "Your accent is perfect," he says. "And I do not want anyone. I want the woman who fixed a stranger's drip line at 2 a.m. and then sat with him an hour so he would not be alone when he was scared. The night cleaner told me, you did not know anyone was watching. It is true, which is what makes it cruel. He learned it precisely so he could use it. But the warmth that opens across her face when he says it is real, and Taejun feels the second set of teeth shift inside his own chest, just slightly, and pretends he does not. She tests him once hard on the 4th night. She tells him the worst thing she carries, that her brother stopped speaking to her when their father died and blamed her for leaving home. That some morning she wakes up in this enormous foreign city, certain that no one anywhere is thinking about her at all. She watches his face the whole time she says it, waiting for the flinch, the boredom, the polite exit. He does not flinch. "I am thinking about you," he says, "right now. And tomorrow when you do not know it." She believes him. That is the night she stops being careful. The first time he kisses her, on the rooftop of a building he owns under a name she will never trace, she pulls back and studies him, searching for the catch she is sure exists. "You are too good to be real," she says. "I am not good," he answers, and that, at least, is the truest thing he tells her all season. She thinks it is modesty. She leans back in. Weeks fold into months. He gives her a key, learns how she takes her coffee, holds her when the homesickness rolls in at night. And the strange thing, the thing he refuses to look at directly, is how little of it feels like work anymore. He stops scheduling the dinners as moves on a board. He starts looking forward to them. One night she falls asleep against his shoulder mid-sentence, trusting, soft, completely his, and he sits perfectly still for an hour so he will not wake her, and he tells himself it is patience. It is not patience. She thinks she has found the one safe place in a hard country. She thinks she has been chosen for who she is. She has been chosen for what she can carry. And the man who chose her is slowly, quietly, forgetting his own reasons. The test sits on the edge of the sink for 4 whole minutes before she has the courage to look. 2 lines. Naomi presses a hand to her mouth and laughs. Then cries, then laughs again, alone in her small, bright bathroom at 7 a.m. with the city waking up outside the window. She is a nurse. She has handed this exact result to 100 women and watched their faces break open. She never once let herself imagine her own. She wants to be afraid, and she cannot find the fear anywhere in her. She thinks of Tae-jun, of the quiet, careful man who remembers everything she says, and for the first time since she boarded a plane 2 years ago, she does not feel alone in the world. She rehearses how she will tell him the whole train ride across the city. She buys 2 small cakes. She wears the dress he once said he liked. He already knows. His doctor flagged the result before she finished reading it herself, because the man Tae-jun planted in her clinic reports everything that crosses her chart. So when Naomi arrives glowing at his door with cake in a paper box and the words trembling on her lips, Tae-jun has had 3 full hours to arrange his face into the one she needs to see. "I have something to tell you," she says. "Tell me," he says, gentle, and she does, and he pulls her into his chest so she will not see his eyes do the cold arithmetic. A child, a son if the odds hold, a throne held for a generation. A door slammed shut on his uncle's patient smile. It is everything he engineered, delivered exactly on schedule, and he should feel nothing but the clean satisfaction of a plan landing true. "Marry me," he says into her hair, because it costs him nothing and buys him her trust for several more months. "Yes," she breathes. "Yes." She feels his arms tighten and reads it as love. It is meant to be ownership. But the cruel thing, the thing Tae-jun will not admit, even silently to himself, is that his arms tighten before he tells them to. Some animal part of him has already decided this woman is his to keep, and it has nothing to do with the throne, and that terrifies him more than his uncle ever has. That same week, he goes to his uncle and lets the news land like a blade. Do-hyun receives it without expression, sets down his tea and says only so. The foreign girl breathes. He smiles his kind and terrible smile. "Congratulations, nephew. You have made yourself a future, and you have made me a target with a date on it." "You were always a target," Tae-jun says. "No," the old man corrects softly. I was always patient. There is a difference, and you have just erased it." He does not threaten. He does not need to. He simply files the pregnancy away the way Tae-jun once filed a recruit's flinch, and begins quietly to count the months. So Tae-jun does the thing he tells himself is strategy. He plans the move into his compound, where the walls are high and the gates are guarded, and a foreign girl with no family will have nowhere left to run when the truth finally comes hunting for her. He tells himself it is to keep the asset safe. He does not let himself notice how much the word asset has started to taste like a lie. The compound is beautiful, and that is the first thing that frightens her. Naomi moves into the Jean estate at the start of her 2nd trimester, and for a week it feels like a fairy tale, marble floors and quiet gardens and staff who bow when she passes. Then the small things start. The gate code she is given works on the first day and fails on the second. Her phone, a gift from Taejun, drops every call except the ones to her mother, and even those at records. A man named Min-suk is always 3 steps behind her, polite, unsmiling, a shadow with a pulse and a gun under his jacket. "For your safety," Taejun says when she finally asks, and he is colder now, the warmth rationed out in smaller pieces with every passing week. "Men like me have enemies. You carry something they would use against me." "You mean the baby," she says. "I mean you," he says. But he says it the way a man speaks about a vault, not a wife, and Naomi lies awake that night with her hand on the swell of her belly, trying to name the feeling crawling slowly up her spine. There is a dinner, the worst night of those early months. Taejun fills the long table with men in dark suits, the heads of the families, and he seats her at his side and introduces her once and never again. All evening she feels them measuring her, the foreign girl, the womb that secured the seat, and not one of them speaks to her like a person. When she tries to join the conversation, Taejun's hand settles over hers on the table. Gentle, final, a quiet instruction to be silent and ornamental. She obeys because she is 6 months along in a house full of armed strangers, and she hates herself for obeying, and she hates him more for making her. "You've displayed me," she says afterward, in their room, her voice low and shaking, like a ring, like proof. "I protected you," he says. "Those men needed to see you were mine. Untouchable." "That is not protection," she says. "That is a leash with good manners." He has no answer, and the silence between them is the first crack in the picture she had been painting of her own life. She finds the real proof a week later, by accident. A folder, left open on his desk in the study he forgot to lock. Her own face on the first page. Her clinic record. Her mother's address in Atlanta written out in full. A timeline of her morning route in a stranger's careful hand. Dated weeks before he ever walked into her clinic, pretending to be a donor with a kind smile and a generous check. Her hands go cold. The dates do not lie. He knew her before the day they met. He chose her the way you choose a location for a building you already intend to demolish. She closes the folder. She lays it back exactly as it sat. And she goes down to dinner and smiles at him across the candlelight while her entire understanding of the last 6 months quietly burns to ash behind her eyes, because she is a nurse, and the first thing a nurse ever learns is how to keep her face still and her hands steady while the truth bleeds out underneath. If your stomach just dropped the way hers did, you and I are in this together. Smash that like button and comment one word, the word trapped, so I know you felt that. And stay with me, because what he says to her next is the line this whole story is named for. She does not scream. She plans. For 3 days, Naomi watches him, measures the guards, counts the cameras, learns which staff meet her eyes and which look straight through her like she is furniture that happens to breathe. She is 7 months along and slower than she has ever been in her life, and still she maps the whole house like a floor plan she may have to flee in the dark. Then she stops planning and chooses the truth instead, because she has to hear him say it out loud. She needs to know if the man she fell for ever existed at all. She lays the folder on the dinner table between them. "You knew me," she says, before the clinic. "You studied me. The grant, the dinners, the book with no note, all of it. Tell me I am wrong. Look at me and tell me I am wrong, and I will believe you, because God help me, I still want to." Taejun looks at the folder, then at her, and something in his face closes like a steel door. He could lie. He is very good at lying, has built an empire on it. But she is looking at him with those steady dark eyes, and some broken, exhausted part of him is so tired of the performance that he does the one thing he has never done with another living person. He tells her the truth. "You are not wrong," he says. The room tilts under her. "Why?" she whispers. "Because I needed an heir, and I needed a woman no one could take from me or turn against me. You had no one. No family here, no protector, no leverage. You were perfect." He says it flatly, like a man reading aloud from a ledger, and every word lands like a separate slap. "I chose you. I arranged the meeting. I funded your floor so you would owe me a door. I made you trust me one careful inch at a time. I got you pregnant on purpose, Naomi. You are mine now. The baby is mine. This house is mine. And there is no version of this story where you walk out the gate with my blood inside you. For a long moment, she cannot breathe. Every soft memory she owns, the rooftop, the worn book, the night he said she was the woman who sat with a frightened stranger at 2 a.m., all of it curdles into poison in real time. She thought she had finally been seen. She had been selected, the way you select a brood animal, the way you select a tool that fits the hand. You are a monster, she says, and her voice does not shake, and somehow that is worse than if it had broken. Yes, he agrees. And then, because he cannot stop himself, because the second set of teeth is buried deep in him now too, he says the thing that ruins his own clean plan. But I did not plan to want you. That part one did not arrange. I do not know how to make it stop, and it is the only thing in my life I have ever failed to control. She slaps him. He lets her. The sound of it rings off the marble and hangs in the air, and neither of them moves. Two people standing in the wreckage of a lie that turned real on both ends at the exact same moment. Do not ever, she says very quietly, tell me you want me again. You do not get that word. You bought everything else. You will never buy that word from me. She walks out. He does not follow. And the most powerful man in the city sits alone at a long candlelit table, holding a folder full of a woman he engineered and then made the catastrophic error of loving. And for the first time he understands that the trap closed on him months ago and he simply never felt the teeth go in. There it is. The line this whole video is named for. If you are screaming at your screen right now, hit subscribe so you do not miss what she does to him next, because she does not stay broken, not for 1 minute. Comment, she will rise if you already know this woman is about to flip his entire world upside down. She runs 11 days later, and she nearly makes it. Naomi spends those 11 days playing the exact role he wants, the chastened woman, soft and quiet and beaten, because a beaten woman earns a longer leash and a looser watch. She lets him think he won. She learns the guard rotation by heart, the scene between the night shift and the dawn shift where the corridor goes briefly unwatched. She befriends Mrs. Han, the old cook, the one person in the house whose eyes hold something other than duty, a woman who had a daughter once and lost her, and who looks at Naomi's belly like it is a sunrise. You should not be here, Mrs. Han murmurs one morning, kneading dough so the cameras read only an old woman working. This house eats soft things. I have watched it. Then help me leave it, Naomi says. The old woman is quiet a long time. Then she nods once. Over the next week, Naomi hides cash inside the lining of a winter coat, a copy of the passport she reported lost so no one is watching it, a cheap phone Mrs. Han buys at the market with money Naomi repays in the only currency she has left, kindness, and the promise that if she gets out, she will live a life worth the risk the old woman is taking. On the night of the staff change, in the narrow gap between two shifts, she walks out the kitchen door with her heart slamming against her ribs and her hand braced under her belly and the cold soul air hitting her face like the first clean breath in months. She crosses the garden. She reaches the outer wall. She reaches the side gate Mrs. Han left unlatched, slips through, and gets 3 full streets into the dark before the headlights find her and pin her to the night like an insect. Min Suk does not even raise his voice. Ms. Carter, he says through the lowered window, almost sorry. Please, it is below freezing, and you are 7 months along, and there is nowhere in this city you can go that he does not own a piece of. She runs anyway. She is fast for a pregnant woman, and far too slow for a hunted one, and they take her gently at the corner of a shuttered market. 2 men who close their hands around her arms like she is made of glass that belongs to someone else, and that gentleness is the most chilling part of the whole night. She is not a prisoner they are afraid of. She is property they have been ordered to protect. Tae-jun is waiting in the courtyard when they bring her back through the gate. He does not yell. He looks at her shivering in the borrowed coat, at the fight still burning undimmed in her eyes, and for one unguarded second the man underneath the monster shows in his face something that looks almost like grief. You could have died out there, he says quietly. Both of you. I would rather die free in the cold, she says, than live warm as your possession. It is the first time in years anyone has spoken to Jin Tae-jun as if he is not a god, and he has no answer for it, none at all. He turns and walks into the house, and he locks her door from the outside that night. And then he stands on the other side of that locked door for a very long time with his forehead pressed against the wood, hating himself in a language he no longer remembers how to speak. Do-hyun has been watching the whole time, and a patient man always finds the crack. The uncle learns the shape of the trouble through a paid mouth on the estate, a guard who needed money more than loyalty. He hears that the foreign girl tried to run. He hears that the boss locked her door and then could not sleep. And Do-hyun, who has spent 60 years reading men the way Tae-jun reads a room, understands at once what it means. His nephew has broken his own first law. He has kept something he is no longer willing to lose. He comes to the compound himself, uninvited, the way he always arrives, and the two of them sit alone in the old study thick with the smell of the cigars Tae-jun hates. You broke your own rule, Do-hyun says. Never keep what you are not willing to lose. And you are not willing to lose her. I watched you watch her at that dinner. You put your hand over hers to silence her, yes, but you also could not stop touching her. He smiles. You think I am blind because I am old. I am old because I see everything in time. Leave her out of it, Tae-jun says, and the heat in his voice betrays him before the words have finished leaving his mouth. The old man's smile widens. There it is. You just handed me the only weapon I needed. The heir was supposed to make you untouchable, nephew. Instead it gave you something that bleeds. He leaves without another word, and Tae-jun knows, the way you know a storm by the drop in the air, that it has already begun. 3 nights later the power to the compound dies at 1 a.m. The camera's blind. The gate guards Tae-jun trusted are Do-hyun's men, bought quietly weeks ago, and they swing the doors open from the inside as if welcoming guests. Naomi wakes to boots in the hall and the bright shatter of breaking glass, and her first thought, the one that startles her even as it arrives, is not for herself. It is for the child, and then, against every wall she has built, it is for Tae-jun. And she hates in that instant that it is for Tae-jun. They take her, not the baby they cannot reach without harming, not the man they cannot easily kill, but the soft warm thing the whole house has come to revolve around. By the time Tae-jun fights his way through his own poison guards to her room, the bed is empty and the window stands open to the cold, and there is a single cigar burning slowly on the sill, left behind like a signature on a contract. His phone rings before he has stopped looking. She is comfortable, his uncle says, unhurried. For now. Step down, nephew. Hand me the seat your father built, and I will hand you back your woman and your little half-blooded heir. Refuse me, and I will take all 3 from you, slowly, in an order designed to teach you something about patience. You have until she gives birth to make up your mind. The line goes dead. Jin Tae-jun stands in the empty room where he kept a woman against her will, and for the first time he understands the cage from the inside out. He built these walls to hold her. They did not keep her safe for one single night. They only told his enemy precisely where to reach in and take the one thing he was foolish enough to need. This is the turn. The man who caged her now has to tear the world apart just to free her. If you are still here, you are my real ones. Hit that like, comment, free her. And let me show you what happens when these two finally stop fighting each other and start fighting the man who took everything from both of them. They keep her in a river house north of the city, and they make exactly one mistake. They underestimate the nurse. Naomi is 8 months along, held in a locked upstairs room with a barred window and a view of cold gray water, and she does the only thing she has ever known how to do under pressure. She works. She watches. She learns the house the way she once learned the compound. Patiently, completely. She notices that the guard with the limp favors his left leg and will not chase. That the old patriarch takes a row of pills at 9 p.m. sharp, a heart that is not as strong as his will. that the youngest man on the detail flinches every time she mentions the baby, because somewhere out there he has a sister who is pregnant too, and he has not yet learned how to make himself stop being a person. She files every piece of it away. A trapped woman with a nurse's eyes is never as helpless as the men holding the keys believe. "You have a sister," she says to the young guard one evening, soft certain. He does not answer. He does not have to. She has already seen it. And Taejun, on the outside, is unmaking himself to find her. He burns favors he spent 20 years building. He hands rival bosses territory he once would have killed to hold, trading streets for whispers, because every whisper is one street closer to the river house. He empties accounts. He calls in debts and forgives others in exchange for eyes. Min-suk watches the boss he has followed for a decade give away the empire piece by piece like a man shedding clothes in a fire, and finally asks the question out loud in the car. "You are giving up the throne to get her back," Min-suk says. "The throne is the entire reason you took her in the first place. You said it yourself. An heir, a leash, no leverage. You are burning the whole point to save the means." "I know," Taejun says, watching the city slide past the window. "Then tell me what she is now, because she is not a leash anymore." Taejun does not answer for a long time. The car turns onto the road that follows the river. "The only thing I have ever been afraid to lose," he says at last, and it is the most honest sentence of his entire life, and it costs him more to say than any bullet he has ever taken. When his people finally pin down the river house, Taejun does not send a wave of men. He goes himself alone first to reach her before the shooting starts, because a war fought around a woman 8 months pregnant is a war that gets her killed in the crossfire. He comes in through a service door the limping guard never properly locks. He climbs to a locked upstairs room, and he opens it to find Naomi already on her feet, a heavy iron lamp gripped in both hands, raised and ready to swing at whatever comes through. They stare at each other across the dim room. The man who trapped her, the woman who would still, even now, even saved, rather brain him than thank him. "I am not here to take you back," he says quietly, hands open at his sides. "I am here to get you out. After that you never have to see my face again. I will sign anything. I swear it on the child you are carrying." And Naomi, who has every reason on this earth to swing the lamp and run, looks hard into the face of the monster who built her a beautiful cage, and sees, for the first time, a man who is genuinely terrified, not of his uncle, not of dying, of her saying no. She lowers the lamp, slowly, but she does not set it down. "Then get us out," she says. "And Taejun, if you are lying to me one more time, about anything, even small, I will finish what this lamp was about to start. Are we clear?" "Clear," he says, and for the first time in the whole story, he is the one taking orders. Getting in was the easy part. Getting out, with a woman whose body has just decided it is time, is where the night turns to fire. They do not make it back to the service door. The stress, the cold, the running, the fear, all of it tips a body that was already standing on the edge, and halfway down the back stairs Naomi doubles over with a contraction that drops her to her knees on the cold wood. 8 months, and the child has decided that now is the hour in the worst possible house on the worst possible night, with armed men 1 floor below. "Not here," she grits out through her teeth. "I am not having her in his house." "Then we move," Taejun says, and he lifts her, and for once in her life she lets a man carry her without a fight. He gets her into a back storeroom and barricades the door with a cabinet and his own braced body, and when the contractions stack up faster than either of them is ready for, he does the thing a man like him has never once done. He follows her orders. She is the nurse. She talks him through it between the waves, her voice shaking and her mind clear, his hands steady only because she tells them to be. Predator and prey, bent together over the same terrified, fragile hope. Boots in the hall outside. Do-hyun's men, drawn by the sounds. Taejun puts his whole body between the door and the woman on the floor and says to her, low and fierce, "Whatever you hear out there, you keep breathing. You count and you breathe and you do not stop for me. Promise me. He presses his mouth to her forehead. Once. And it is nothing like the calculated rooftop kisses from the beginning. It asks for nothing at all. It is the first wholly honest thing his mouth has ever given her. Then he goes out into the hall, and he is very, very good at the thing his father raised him to be. Naomi hears it through the barricaded door, the short, brutal sounds of one man clearing a path through several. And she keeps breathing exactly the way he told her to, and she hates that she is praying for a monster. And she prays anyway, harder than she has prayed for anything. When he comes back, he is bleeding from a cut above his eye, and there is a gun shoved in his belt that he does not reach for, and he drops to his knees beside her and takes her hand in both of his and says, I am here. I am not going anywhere. Bring our daughter into the world, Naomi. I have got you. I have got you. And she does. In a barricaded storeroom in her enemy's house, with the man who trapped her gripping her hand and weeping without knowing he is weeping, Naomi brings a furious, red, screaming girl into the world at 4 a.m. And when Tae-jun looks down at his daughter for the first time, his entire face cracks open into something raw and undefended that Naomi has never once seen on him. And in that instant she understands the truth he was too frightened to know about himself. The throne was never going to be enough for this man. It was never even what he wanted. He just did not have another word for the hole in his chest until right now. If you teared up right there, you are human, and you are exactly my kind of viewer. Tap that like, comment her name, and tell me what these two should call her, and stay locked in with me, because the old man is not finished, and the final hour of the story is the bloodiest one yet. Do-hyun makes his final move at dawn, and Tae-jun gives him the war he came looking for. The uncle does not want a baby, and he never did. He wants the seat, and the only thing standing between him and 60 years of ambition is a bleeding nephew in a back room with a newborn and a woman he refuses to abandon. So Do-hyun calls in every gun he owns and rings the river house at first light, certain that a man burdened with an infant and a new mother cannot fight and cannot run. He has calculated everything in the equation except the one variable that changed at 4 a.m., the thing Tae-jun became the moment he looked at his daughter. Min-suk arrives in the gray light with the men Tae-jun did not trade away, the loyal handful, and what follows is nothing like the clean, quiet work in the warehouse all those months ago. It is loud and close and desperate. Tae-jun fights forward through his uncle's hired guns with Naomi and the baby moving behind him under Min-suk's guard. Every meter of ground bought with somebody's blood. And the entire time the thing driving him is not the throne he engineered a child to secure. It is 2 heartbeats he intends to walk out of this house still beating. They fight their way to the courtyard, and there the old man waits, come even now, a pistol held loose in one hand and 4 men fanned out at his back. You could have had everything, Do-hyun says. The seat, the name. I would have let you keep the woman as a pet in a good house. All you had to do was stay the man your father carved out of you. Instead, you let a foreign nurse make you soft, and soft men die in cold courtyards, nephew. That is the only law that has never once failed me. You are right about one thing, Tae-jun says, and he is breathing hard, and he is not afraid. The man my father made would have handed you this throne to save his own skin. He would have called it strategy. I am not that man anymore. She killed him. The baby buried him. And you are about to meet what is left. What the old man never sees coming, because he stopped seeing people as people a long time ago, is the youngest guard. The one with the pregnant sister. The one Naomi spoke to gently for 3 days, the one she saw. When Do-hyun lifts the pistol and swings it toward the woman, holding the child, the young man's hand closes hard around the old man's wrist and drags the barrel down. Just for a second. Just 1 single second. And 1 second is the only thing Jean Tae-jun has ever needed from anyone. It ends fast, the way these things always do once they finally tip. When the noise stops and the gray light settles over the courtyard, the old man is on the cold ground, and the throne he schemed and waited and killed for across 60 patient years is finally, permanently, out of his reach forever. Tae-jun stands over him the way he once stood over a trader in a warehouse, a lifetime and 8 months ago. But this time he is not cold, and his hands are not steady. This time they are shaking, and behind him a baby is crying, and the only thing left in the whole world that he wants is to turn around and put his hands on the two people still breathing. So he drops the gun in the dirt. He turns his back on the throne, and he goes to them. We made it to the end together, you and me. If this story held you the whole way through, do me one favor before the very last scene. Subscribe so you never miss the next film I drop. Hit that like button, and comment the Yandy if you rode this all the way out from the first minute. Now, let me show you the part that actually matters. Let me show you how she chooses. Here is the thing about a cage. Once the door is finally open, what the bird does next is the only part that was ever going to matter. Tae-jun keeps his word, all of it. When the dust has settled and the bodies are in the ground and the families have fallen quietly in line behind the man who held his ground in a courtyard at dawn, he does not lock a single door in the house. He gives Naomi papers, real ones this time, her own passport returned, a bank account in her own name with enough money to vanish forever, a clean and quiet path home to Atlanta with their daughter, and never one shadow behind her again as long as she lives. He sets her free completely, the way he should have from the very first day in her clinic. You can go, he tells her, standing in a doorway that is, for the first time, genuinely and fully open. No guards, no folder, no men, 3 steps behind you. I took every choice you had away from you once, one at a time, and called it protection. I'm giving them all back. Even the choice to walk out this door and never forgive me. Especially that one. Naomi stands in the open doorway with her daughter asleep against her chest, and she thinks about all of it. The lie in the bright clinic, the folder with her mother's address, the hand over hers at the long table, the locked door, and the freezing night she ran. She has every right in the world to walk through this door and never once look back, and they both know it completely, and the knowing is the only thing that could ever make her staying mean anything at all. I hated you, she says. I need you to hear me, say it plainly with my whole chest. You did a thing to me that I will spend years setting down a piece at a time. You do not get to call it love just because it ended soft and bloody and brave. The beginning was a cage, and a cage is a cage even when the man who built it cries at the end. I know, he says. I am not asking you to forget any of it. I am not asking you for anything. That is the entire point. For the first time, I am asking you for nothing. She looks down at the sleeping girl, then back up at the man who burned an entire empire to the ground just to undo the worst thing he ever did. I am not staying because you saved us, she says. Hear that too. I can save myself. I proved it in the cold, and I proved it in that storeroom. If I stay, it is because somewhere underneath all that wreckage I met the man who lives under the monster, and he held my hand at 4 a.m. and let me lead, and he dropped his gun in the dirt and chose us over the only thing he ever thought he wanted. So we do this my way now or not at all. My name on the papers, my say in her life and in mine. You earn me every single ordinary day for as long as it takes, and you never once assume you are finished. And the very first time you cage anything, me, her, a bird, a thought, I am gone, and you open the door yourself, and you let me go. Yes, Tae-jun says, and the most dangerous man in the city, says it the way a man finally lays a weapon down on the ground and steps back from it. Your way, all of it, for as long as it takes. She does not fall into his arms. She is not that woman anymore, and she is never going to be that woman again. She simply steps back from the open door, into the house that is now half hers by her own free choice, and lets him close it gently behind her. Not a lock, a choice. The first fully free choice in this entire story that was truly, completely only hers. They name the girl Hannah, a new beginning. And the months that follow are not a fairy tale, because Naomi will not allow a fairy tale, having survived the lie that wore one as a mask. There are nights she cannot look at him. There are arguments that crack the quiet house open. He goes to bed some nights knowing he has not earned the day, and he gets up the next morning and tries again because that was the deal, and he is at last a man who keeps a deal. He got her pregnant on purpose. He told her she was his. He was wrong about the second part, dead wrong, and learning exactly how wrong it was cost him every single thing he once believed he wanted. In the end, she was never his to keep. He became hers to deserve. And somewhere in a quiet house above the cold gray river, a man who spent his whole life certain that love was only the weakness that gets men killed rocks his daughter to sleep at 4 a.m., the hour she was born, and finally understands the one thing his father never taught him. It was the only thing he ever held that was strong enough to save him. That is the whole story. If she earned your tears and he earned even a little of your forgiveness. Put it in the comments and tell me, did she make the right choice staying, or should she have walked? I read every one. Subscribe for the next film, because the next one is darker than this one, I promise you. And remember the thing this woman taught a monster. You do not get to keep what you were too afraid to deserve. See you in the next one.